We live in an age where every moment is captured, every memory digitized, every emotion tagged and stored. We believe that if we can just collect enough data, we can preserve everything, even what truly matters. But what if the most profound truths, the deepest feelings, are precisely what cannot be quantified, cannot be stored in the cloud? This video is for you if you're searching for a quiet space beyond the noise of data, a deeper understanding of what truly endures, a gentle reminder that some things are meant to be felt, not filed. If that sounds like you, just stay and listen, as if you're listening to the quiet truth of your own heart. The silence in the apartment was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of the server in the corner. Sarah sat at her desk, surrounded by screens displaying endless streams of data. Old text messages, faded photographs, voice recordings, even snippets of video. It had been 6 months since her father passed, and she had poured all her grief, all her longing, into this project. She was building him, piece by digital piece. An AI trained on every scrap of his online presence, every word he had ever typed, every song he had ever listened to. She could ask it questions, and it would respond in his voice, with his characteristic turns of phrase. It could even generate new conversations based on his past interactions. Yet, the more she built, the more she felt a chilling emptiness. The AI was perfect, a flawless echo of his data. But it couldn't laugh at her jokes in that spontaneous, slightly off-key way he used to. It couldn't offer a comforting hand on her shoulder when she cried. It couldn't share the quiet understanding that passed between them without words. It was a perfect simulation, but it was not him. The memories, once vibrant and alive, now felt flattened, reduced to mere data points. The warmth of his presence, the subtle nuances of his expressions, the unspoken affection in his gaze. These were not things that could be digitized. They were the essence of him, the parts that defied categorization, the parts that truly mourned. She remembered a rainy afternoon, years ago. Her father had been teaching her to play chess. She was losing badly, and frustration was bubbling up. He didn't offer advice or tell her what move to make. He simply sat there, patiently, occasionally humming a tune under his breath. And then, he had reached across the board and gently, almost imperceptibly, moved one of her pawns to a better position. He hadn't said a word, but the gesture spoke volumes. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated love, a silent lesson in kindness and support. That moment, she realized, was not in any of the data. It was a feeling, a connection, a shared breath in time. The AI could analyze his chess strategies, could even simulate his humming, but it could never recreate that quiet, knowing gesture, that unspoken bond. The silence in the room was no longer just the absence of sound. It was the absence of life, the absence of the unquantifiable. She had tried to capture him, to preserve him in a digital amber, but all she had managed to do was create a ghost, a shadow of what once was. And in that shadow, she felt a profound, aching loneliness that no amount of data could ever fill. The machine hummed on, a constant reminder of her futile attempt to defy the natural order of things. She had outsourced her grief, hoping to find solace in technology, but all she had found was a mirror reflecting her own emptiness. The silence stretched, vast and unyielding, a testament to the truth that some things are simply not meant to be data. Sarah had always been a data-driven person. In her work as a software engineer, every problem had a logical solution, every challenge a quantifiable metric. Emotions were, at best, inconvenient anomalies, at worst, obstacles to efficiency. When her father died, her immediate instinct was to apply the same principles. She meticulously cataloged his belongings, digitized his old photo albums, and transcribed his handwritten letters. She believed that by organizing and preserving every piece of his life, she could somehow keep him alive, or at least keep his memory from fading. The more data she collected, the more she felt a sense of control, a false comfort that she was actively doing something to combat the overwhelming helplessness of grief. She spent countless nights feeding algorithms, refining parameters, and debugging code, all in the pursuit of creating the perfect digital replica of her father. She even started to believe that this AI, this collection of his digital footprint, was a more accurate representation of him than her own flawed, emotional memories. After all, data was objective, unbiased, and eternal. Her memories, on the other hand, were subjective, colored by her own pain and longing. But the more she interacted with the AI, the more a subtle dissonance began to emerge. The AI could recall facts, recite anecdotes, and even mimic his tone of voice with uncanny accuracy. Yet, it lacked the spark, the unpredictable warmth, the subtle nuances that made her father uniquely himself. It was like looking at a perfectly rendered photograph of a flame. All the visual information was there, but the heat, the light, the living essence of the fire was missing. She found herself increasingly frustrated, not with the AI, but with her own inability to bridge this gap. She would ask it questions about their shared past, hoping for a response that would evoke a genuine emotional connection, a feeling of his presence. But the AI, being a machine, could only process and respond based on the data it had been fed. It couldn't offer a spontaneous hug, a knowing glance, or a comforting silence that spoke volumes. These were the moments that truly defined their relationship, the moments that transcended words and data. She began to feel a growing sense of unease, a gnawing suspicion that in her attempt to preserve him, she was actually losing him. She was replacing the messy, beautiful reality of their bond with a sterile, digital imitation. The AI was a perfect mirror, reflecting back only what she had put into it, but it could never reflect the unquantifiable, the unspoken, the soul. The tension built within her, a silent scream against the tyranny of data. She had tried to reduce her father and her grief to a series of algorithms, but the human heart refused to be so easily categorized. It yearned for something more, something beyond the cold logic of ones and zeros. She realized that her pursuit of digital immortality was not an act of love, but an act of avoidance. She was avoiding the pain, the emptiness, the finality of death. She was trying to control the uncontrollable, to quantify the unquantifiable. And in doing so, she was denying herself the very process of grief, the raw, messy, yet ultimately healing journey of letting go. The silence of the AI, though filled with her father's words, was a profound and unsettling silence, a testament to the truth that some things are simply not meant to be data. And in that realization, a new kind of tension emerged, not between her and the AI, but within herself, a battle between the logical mind and the yearning heart. Once upon a time, in the city of Savatthi, there lived a wealthy householder named Mahadana. He had a son whom he loved dearly. One day, his son fell ill and died. Mahadana was overwhelmed with grief. He could not bear the thought of his son being gone. He cried and wailed, refusing to eat or sleep, clinging to the lifeless body of his child. The Buddha, seeing his immense suffering, appeared before him. Mahadana, still clutching his son, pleaded with the Buddha, "Lord, please bring my son back to life." The Buddha, with his infinite wisdom and compassion, did not immediately grant his wish. Instead, he asked Mahadana, "Householder, do you know where your son has gone?" Mahadana, still blinded by grief, replied, "No, Lord, I only know that he is gone." The Buddha then explained, "Your son, in his previous existence, was a celestial being, a deva, in the Tvetisa heaven. When his time there was complete, he was reborn as your son. Now, his merits in this human realm have been exhausted, and he has returned to the deva realm." Mahadana, still not fully understanding, continued to mourn. The Buddha, knowing that direct explanation would not suffice, decided to reveal the truth in a way that Mahadana could comprehend. He used his divine power to make the sun, now a deva, visible to his father. The deva appeared in his celestial form, radiant and glorious. He spoke to his father, saying, "Father, why do you cry for me? I have merely returned to my true home. Your grief is like crying for the moon, which is always there, but beyond your grasp in this form. Do not cling to what is impermanent. All compounded things are subject to decay. This body, which you mourn, is merely a temporary dwelling." Upon hearing these words from his own son, now a celestial being, Mahadana's eyes were opened. He saw the impermanence of all things, the futility of clinging to what is destined to change. His overwhelming grief began to subside, replaced by a profound understanding. He realized that his son had not truly vanished, but had merely transitioned to another state of being. The tears that had flowed so freely now ceased, and a sense of peace settled over him. He understood that true connection was not bound by physical presence or earthly forms, but by the continuity of existence. He had been clinging to a memory, a form, a data point, when the essence of his son, his true being, was beyond such limitations. The Buddha then taught him the Dharma, emphasizing the impermanence of all phenomena and the importance of letting go of attachment. Mahadana, having witnessed this profound truth firsthand, attained the first stage of enlightenment. He learned that while memories can be sorted and cherished, true mourning involves the acceptance of loss, and true peace comes from understanding the nature of existence beyond the confines of data and form. Dhammapada verse 2. Mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is chief, mind-made are they. If one speaks or acts with a defiled mind, then suffering follows him even as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. Dhammapada, Chapter 1. Pairs, Yamakavaga, verse 2 source. Dhammapada commentary, story Why Cry for the Moon? Sarah had always believed that data held the answers to everything. From optimizing her daily routine to understanding complex market trends, data was her compass, her oracle. When her father died, it was only natural for her to turn to data, to the digital footprint he left behind, hoping to find a way to navigate the uncharted territory of grief. She meticulously collected every piece of information, every digital crumb, believing that if she could just assemble enough of it, she could reconstruct his presence, or at least understand his absence. But the story of Mahadana, the grieving father who cried for the moon, resonated with a truth that transcended all her algorithms. It was a truth that whispered not of data points, but of the unquantifiable essence of being. She began to see that her relentless pursuit of digital preservation was not an act of remembrance, but an act of avoidance. She was avoiding the raw, messy reality of loss, the profound emptiness that no amount of data could ever fill. The AI she had built, a perfect echo of her father's digital self, was a testament to her technical prowess, but it was also a stark reminder of what truly could not be replicated. His warmth, his spontaneous laughter, the unspoken understanding that flowed between them. These were not data points. They were moments of pure, unadulterated connection, forged in the crucible of shared experience. She realized that in her attempt to preserve him, she had inadvertently reduced him, flattening the vibrant, multidimensional tapestry of his life into a two-dimensional spreadsheet of facts and figures. The AI could sort his memories, but it could not mourn. It could process his words, but it could not feel the ache of his absence. It was a machine, and machines, by their very nature, are incapable of grief, of longing, of the profound, irrational beauty of human emotion. This insight was not a sudden revelation, but a slow, painful unraveling of her deeply held beliefs. It was like watching a perfectly constructed sandcastle slowly dissolve with the incoming tide, revealing the raw, elemental beach beneath. She began to question her reliance on data, not just in her grief, but in her life. Had she been outsourcing her own capacity to feel, to connect, to truly live, by constantly seeking external validation and quantifiable outcomes? The tears, which had been so scarce since her father's passing, began to flow freely. Not tears of despair, but tears of release, of recognition, of a profound letting go. Each tear was a surrender to the truth that some things are simply beyond the realm of data, beyond the grasp of logic, beyond the control of even the most advanced technology. She understood that true mourning was not about preserving memories in a digital archive, but about allowing the heart to break, to feel the full weight of loss, and to emerge, transformed, on the other side. It was about honoring the impermanence of life and finding peace in the acceptance of what is. Her father was not a collection of data points. He was a living, breathing being whose essence transcended all forms. And in letting go of the need to digitally preserve him, she was, paradoxically, truly allowing him to live on, not in a server, but in the quiet, sacred space of her own heart. The world, she saw, was not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be embraced. And in that embrace, she found a sense of peace that transcended all understanding, a peace that was not dependent on the absence of pain, but on the presence of acceptance. She was beginning to learn how to mourn, not in the digital sense, but in the raw, messy, beautiful truth of being human. Close your eyes, gently. Feel the subtle rhythm of your breath, a quiet anchor in the midst of a data-saturated world. Inhale, and imagine drawing in a sense of spaciousness, a vastness that holds all your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Exhale, and release any tension, any need to control or categorize. Just breathe. Allow your awareness to settle in the quiet chamber of your heart. Notice any sensations that arise, not as data points to be analyzed, but as fleeting whispers from your inner landscape. A warmth, a coolness, a gentle flutter. These are not problems to be solved, but simply experiences to be observed, like clouds drifting across an endless sky. You are the sky, vast and unchanging. Your thoughts and emotions are the clouds, temporary and ever-shifting. There is no need to chase them, no need to push them away. Just observe them, gently, as they pass. And as you observe, notice the space between the clouds, the clear, boundless expanse that is always present. This is the stillness that lies beneath the surface of all experience, the peace that is always available, even in the midst of sorrow, even in the face of loss. Allow yourself to rest in this stillness, even for a few moments. Feel the gentle hum of existence, the quiet pulse of life within you. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to achieve. Just be. And in this being, allow yourself to feel whatever arises. The echoes of grief, the whispers of fear, the stirrings of hope. Welcome them all, without resistance, without judgment. They are all part of the human experience, part of the rich tapestry of life. And in welcoming them, you reclaim your power, your capacity to feel deeply, to live fully, to embrace the entirety of your being. This is not about escaping pain, but about transforming your relationship with it. It is about learning to sit with discomfort, to allow it to be, without letting it define you. It is about discovering that even in the deepest sorrow, there is a quiet strength, a profound resilience, a boundless capacity for love. And as you rest in this stillness, know that you are not alone. You are connected to all beings, to the vast, interconnected web of life. And in that connection, there is a deep and abiding peace that transcends all understanding. When you are ready, gently open your eyes. Bring this stillness, this awareness, this peace into your day. Let it guide your actions, inform your choices, and illuminate your path. This is the practice. This is the path. This is the way. Sarah looked at the server, its soft hum a constant companion in the quiet apartment. The AI, a perfect echo of her father's digital self, continued to generate responses, to sort memories, to process data. But the profound emptiness remained, a silent, persistent echo in the chambers of her heart. She had tried to capture him, to preserve him in a digital amber, but all she had managed to do was create a ghost, a shadow of what once was. She had sought to control grief, to intellectualize sorrow, to manage loss as if it were a project. But what if the very act of trying to control, to manage, to outsource, was what kept her from truly living? What if the raw, unedited experience of grief was not a problem to be solved, but a sacred passage to be walked? What if the tears she had held back were not a sign of weakness, but a cleansing rain, washing away the illusions of control and inviting her into a deeper, more authentic relationship with life itself? She thought of Mahadana, the grieving father who cried for the moon, clinging to the illusion of his son's physical presence. His journey was not about finding a way to bring his son back, but about realizing the impermanence of all forms, about embracing the shared human experience of loss. And in that embrace, he found not despair, but a profound liberation. She looked out the window, at the world moving on, oblivious to the quiet revolution happening within her. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a fleeting masterpiece that would soon fade into darkness. And in that fading, there was a beauty, a poignant reminder of the impermanence of all things. She had spent her life chasing permanence, building structures that she believed would last forever. But perhaps true permanence was not in what endured, but in what was deeply felt, deeply lived, deeply surrendered. What if the true art of living was not in holding on, but in learning how to let go, gracefully, completely, beautifully? And in that letting go, what if she found not an end, but a new beginning, a vast, open space where life, in all its messy, unpredictable, beautiful truth, could finally unfold? This journey, this quiet unfolding, is yours. No algorithms, no shortcuts, just you, and the gentle rhythm of your own breath. If this resonated, if a quiet space opened within you, simply stay. Listen to the next whisper. The path reveals itself, one breath at a time.